Mr. President, I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the Government of the Commonwealth of Dominica. My delegation aligns itself with the statements made by Grenada on behalf of CARICOM, Uganda on behalf of the Non-Aligned Movement, Honduras on behalf of CELAC, and Iraq on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. From the outset, my delegation unreservedly opposes the economic, commercial, financial embargo that has been imposed on the Cuban people by the United States for over 6 decades. We view this as an egregious, hegemonic, and flagrant violation of the fundamental human rights of the Cuban people, and a regressive measure to stifle the economic advancement of the Republic of Cuba. Mr. President, this agenda item should not be viewed by some states as just another chorus of platitudes. As an overwhelming majority of states have consistently and vociferously condemned this embargo and call for an immediate cessation of this grave travesty. This unilateral coercive measure and unjustified action is contrary to international law and the fundamental principles of the UN Charter. Further, it represents the most severe and protracted system ever applied against any country and continues to be the main obstacle towards the development of all the potentialities of the Cuban economy. Mr. President, the recent failure of Cuba's power grid, which resulted in a nationwide power outage, illustrates this fact. The main cause is the fuel shortage, which underscores the brutal impact of this economic and financial embargo. My delegation therefore strongly urges the few states who continue to support these sanctions to heed the call of the overwhelming majority of us gathered here and lift this archaic embargo, and let us support the full integration of the Cuban people into the global financial and trading systems. Mr. President, my delegation is mindful of the views raised by the United Nations Human Rights Council Special Rapporteur of the negative impact this embargo has on the enjoyment of the human rights of the Cuban people, including right to health, right to proper sanitation, right to decent work, among others. Throughout the period, numerous banks have suspended their operations with Cuba, including transfers for the purchase of food and medicines, fuel, and goods for the population. The prohibition on regular trade and on importing from third countries goods containing more than 10% U.S. components has not been modified. The unilateral and arbitrary list of restricted Cuban entities and the list of prohibited lodgings also continue to be enforced, as well as the inclusion of Cuba in the list of state sponsors of terrorism. My delegation, therefore, calls for the immediate removal of Cuba from this list of countries that are considered to be sponsors of terrorism. And we ask instead to redirect our efforts to combating the real threats to global peace and security in our region. Mr. President, for decades, Cuba has been training medical doctors, nurses, engineers, and other professionals, as well as providing technical assistance to developing countries as part of its South-South cooperation. Additionally, Cuba continues to add its voice in the fight against terrorism and drug trafficking in the Caribbean and the rest of the world. This resolution has historically received more than two-thirds support of the member states of the United Nations, which symbolizes a clear and distinctive recognition for the need to end the blockade. The government of Dominica will continue to embrace the government and the people of Cuba as a fellow member of the United Nations and a sister nation of the Caribbean. Our diplomatic relations have provided a platform for strengthening cultural and political ties with some key areas of solidarity, including education and health services. The government of Dominica further views the application of Title III of the Helms-Burton Act as a serious concern resulting in negative consequences, and therefore reiterates the call for the end to the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. We call for a greater sense of diplomatic intercourse to prevail as a key strategy for resolving outstanding issues between members of the international community. I thank you.